Welcome to Mindful Language, a space where philosophy meets everyday life. I'm Susan Hempenstall, a philosopher of mind, and I've spent years exploring the deep connection between language, thought, and meaning. How we speak, how we listen, and how we understand each other shapes our entire reality. But too often we miscommunicate. We say one thing, but another is heard. We reach out, but instead of connection, we find misunderstanding and frustration, even pain. I know this because I've been there. This is where mindful language comes in. I've developed a series of life practices designed to help you use language with clarity, precision, and care, so you can express what you truly mean and receive the words of others as they intend. These practices aren't abstract theories, they're tools you can use to enrich your relationships, navigate conflicts, and deepen your understanding of yourself and the world. Each video in this series will introduce one practice, one way to bring meaning and mindfulness to how you speak and listen. By learning to language with intention, we don't just avoid unnecessary pain, we create lives that are richer, more connected, and deeply understood. So, if you're ready to explore the philosophy of mind in a way that's practical, personal, and transformative, subscribe, stay curious, and let's begin. Practices in this section introduce you to how people situate themselves in the world and how this affects their communication with others. These are fundamental practices that awaken us to ways in which people interact, so we can choose how we want to react. If people were to consistently say what they mean, we could take what they say at face value. Fortunately, this does not happen very often. With this first practice, we learn that each statement people make contains an element of relationship and an element of content. Figuring out which is the key to unpacking the true meaning of what is being said. Once we're able to discern both the content and relationship elements of speech, we get closer to the true meaning of what the speaker is concerned about. As a couples psychologist once said, I know when my services are no longer needed when complaints about the coffee are just that, complaints about the coffee. In his 1967 book, Pragmatics of Human Communication, Paul Watzlawick once said, every communication has a content and relationship aspect. Since encountering this statement about communication, I've witnessed it in play in almost everything I hear. It's one of those once you know you can't unknow kind of things, something you can't unsee, and I'm glad I found this. I agree with Watzlawick about the relationship and content elements of all statements, and I'd like to add that distinguishing which is which will not only tell what the speaker is concerned about, but will help you to make sense of what's really going on when it comes to social interaction. A few examples of how this relationship and content practice unfolds. Clearly, in this example, the well-stocked kitchen has more than enough food, so the statement about the food or the content is not what it's really about. This is a relationship statement, which translates to something like, I'm feeling sad, regressing, and I want to be nurtured. I need your presence now. In other words, the kind of nourishment they seek is emotional. In public, how are you is just a relationship-based greeting. The speaker doesn't really want to know how you're feeling. The statement merely acknowledges you, to which you reply, fine, thank you. And you may throw in yourself, but you clearly do not want to know either. Since this exchange is not meant to be an evaluation of your mental or your physical well-being. When uttered by a medical professional, however, how are you would be a content-based statement, as the speaker truly does want to know the details of your ailments. In general, most of us realize that going for coffee is not just about the coffee, it's about the relationship, an opportunity to spend time chatting. If you really think it's about the coffee, when someone asks you to go for coffee, watch their reaction when you tell them you don't drink coffee. At work, working remotely is not for everyone. There are those amongst us who thrive in a workplace with plenty of social interaction in the form of face-to-face meetings, coffee breaks, and colleagues for commiserating. For this type of worker, one who thrives in an atmosphere of social collaboration, relationship is the key element. On the other hand, there are those who thrive in solitude and are glad to focus on work without interruptions. For these people, you guessed it, it's about the work or the content, and so a computer and some documents are all that's required for the task at hand. Quiet time away from distractions is valued. Summarizing, recognize that all statements contain elements of relationship and content, and that the context is relevant. Distinguish what the speaker is concerned about. Avoid focusing on the things that they are talking about. My recommendation is err on the side of caution. Make a relationship statement that validates or reassures them. Then try the content. There are many more practices to come. If you'd like to see more content, click on the relationship buttons below.